Picture this. A respected Victorian gentleman transforms into a murderous monster with just a sip of a mysterious potion. What if I told you that this isn't just gothic horror fiction, but a profound exploration of human nature that predicted modern psychology by decades? Today we're diving deep into one of literature's most enduring masterpieces, Robert Louis Stevenson's strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and I guarantee you'll never look at this story the same way again. Most people think they know this tale. They picture a mad scientist drinking a bubbling concoction and sprouting fangs. But here's what will blow your mind. Stevenson wasn't writing about supernatural transformation at all. He was dissecting the terrifying duality that exists within every human soul, decades before Freud even coined the term unconscious. This book isn't just entertainment, it's a psychological roadmap that reveals uncomfortable truths about who we really are when nobody's watching. Published in 1886, Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde emerged from one of literature's most fascinating origin stories. Stevenson reportedly wrote the entire novella during a fever dream, completing the first draft in just 3 days. His wife Fanny, however, convinced him to burn the manuscript, arguing it read too much like a straightforward horror tale rather than the profound allegory it could become. Stevenson rewrote it entirely, creating the masterpiece we know today. This wasn't merely another Victorian Gothic novel. Stevenson crafted a sophisticated examination of human psychology that anticipated modern theories about personality disorders, repression, and the unconscious mind. The story operates on multiple levels simultaneously, as a gripping thriller, a moral fable, and a scientific thought experiment about the nature of identity itself. The novella's genius lies in its structure. Rather than following Jekyll's perspective, Stevenson tells the story through the eyes of Jekyll's friend and lawyer, Mr. Utterson. This narrative choice creates an atmosphere of mounting dread as readers piece together the truth alongside the protagonist. We experience the horror of discovery rather than the mechanics of transformation. Set against the backdrop of Victorian London, the story captures the era's obsession with respectability and social propriety. Jekyll represents the perfect Victorian gentleman, educated, wealthy, and socially conscious. Yet beneath this polished exterior lurks something darker, something that society's rigid expectations have forced underground. Stevenson understood that the more tightly a society constrains human nature, the more violently it tends to erupt. The book's enduring popularity stems from its universal themes. Every reader recognises the internal struggle between civilised behaviour and primal impulses. We all maintain public personas while harbouring private thoughts we'd never dare express. Jekyll's transformation represents the ultimate expression of this universal human conflict. The story begins with Mr. Utterson, Mr. House's a London lawyer, investigating disturbing reports about his friend Dr. Henry Jekyll's association with a mysterious and repulsive man named Edward Hyde. Utterson first encounters Hyde when the strange man tramples a young girl in the street, displaying shocking callousness toward the victim. This incident reveals Hyde's capacity for casual cruelty and establishes him as someone fundamentally different from the normal society. As Utterson digs deeper, he discovers that Jekyll has written a will, leaving everything to Hyde, should Jekyll disappear or die. This arrangement deeply troubles Utterson, who suspects Hyde is blackmailing his friend. The lawyer's investigation reveals that Hyde has a key to Jekyll's laboratory and seems to have unlimited access to the doctor's home, despite Jekyll's servants' obvious fear and hatred of the man. The mystery deepens when Sir Danvers Carew, a respected member of Parliament, is brutally murdered. Witnesses identify Hyde as the killer, but the man seems to have vanished completely. Jekyll appears shaken by the news and swears to Utterson that he's finished with Hyde forever. For months, Jekyll returns to his normal social life, hosting dinner parties and resuming his scientific work. However, Jekyll soon becomes reclusive again, refusing visitors and appearing increasingly distressed. His longtime friend, Dr. Lanyon, dies suddenly after receiving a letter from Jekyll, but not before telling Utterson that he's seen something too horrible to discuss. Lanyon leaves Utterson a sealed letter with instructions to open it, only if Jekyll dies or disappears. The climax arrives when Jekyll's servants, led by his butler Poole, beg Utterson to break down the laboratory door. They've heard strange sounds and unfamiliar voices from within, and Jekyll hasn't been seen for days. When they finally enters, they find Hyde's body, apparently having committed suicide. Jekyll is nowhere to be found, but he's left behind a full confession that reveals the shocking truth about his relationship with Hyde. The story's foundation rests on the establishment of Jekyll as the perfect Victorian gentleman. Stevenson carefully constructs Jekyll's reputation as a respected physician, generous philanthropist, and refined social host. This characterization proves crucial because it demonstrates that even the most seemingly moral individuals harbour dark impulses. Jekyll's respectability makes his transformation all the more shocking and suggests that evil doesn't announce itself with obvious signs. The introduction of Hyde through the trampling incident serves as our first glimpse into pure malevolence. Unlike typical villains who might have understandable motivations, Hyde appears to commit evil acts purely for pleasure. His physical description emphasises his otherness. He's smaller than Jekyll, younger, and possesses an indefinable quality that makes everyone who meets him feel instinctively repulsed. This reaction suggests that humans can recognise evil on some primal level. Jekyll's will, naming Hyde as sole beneficiary, creates the central mystery driving the narrative. Utterson's horror at this arrangement reflects Victorian society's emphasis on maintaining proper social connections. The idea that a respected gentleman would associate with someone like Hyde, much less leave him everything, violates every social norm. This plot device allows Stevenson to explore themes of reputation, social expectations, and the masks people wear in public. The murder of Sir Danvers Carew represents Hyde's escalation from casual cruelty to premeditated violence. Stevenson describes the attack with particular brutality, emphasising Hyde's savage pleasure in the act. This murder serves multiple purposes. It demonstrates Hyde's complete lack of moral restraint, provides legal consequences that force Jekyll to confront his creation's actions, and symbolises the destruction of Victorian civilization's highest values. Jekyll's temporary return to normal life after Carew's murder illustrates the seductive nature of moral reformation. For 2 months, Jekyll appears to have successfully suppressed his dark side, becoming more charitable and social than ever before. This period demonstrates that transformation is possible, but also foreshadows its ultimate failure. Jekyll's increased goodness seems almost manic, suggesting he's overcompensating for his guilty knowledge. The mysterious death of Dr. Lanyon introduces the theme of forbidden knowledge and its consequences. Lanyon, once Jekyll's close friend and scientific colleague, dies of shock after witnessing Jekyll's transformation. His death serves as a warning about the dangers of pursuing certain types of knowledge. Lanyon's final letter, sealed until Jekyll's death, creates additional suspense while emphasising that some truths are too terrible for ordinary minds to process. The final confrontation in Jekyll's laboratory brings all the story's themes together. The servant's fear, the strange sounds from within, and the eventual discovery of Hyde's body create a powerful climax. Jekyll's absence from the scene where Hyde dies suggests their fundamental connection while maintaining the mystery until the very end. The suicide represents both characters' ultimate defeat and the restoration of natural order. Jekyll's confession, read after his death, provides the scientific explanation for his transformation while revealing the story's deeper meaning. He describes his experiments in separating the good and evil aspects of human nature, initially believing he could enjoy Hyde's freedom while maintaining Jekyll's reputation. However, he discovers that evil, once unleashed, grows stronger and more difficult to control. The confession reveals that Hyde isn't Jekyll's opposite, but rather his concentrated essence of selfishness and cruelty. The most profound lesson from Jekyll and Hyde concerns the dangerous illusion of moral superiority. Jekyll believes he can compartmentalise his evil impulses, enjoying Hyde's freedom while maintaining his respectable reputation. This reflects a common human tendency to minimise our capacity for wrongdoing while condemning others for similar failings. True moral development requires acknowledging and integrating our shadow aspects rather than trying to eliminate them entirely. Stevenson demonstrates that repression breeds extremism. Jekyll's attempts to completely suppress his darker impulses don't eliminate them, but instead concentrate them into something far more destructive. This principle applies beyond individual psychology to social movements and political systems. Societies that refuse to acknowledge legitimate grievances or natural human desires often face violent eruptions of the very forces they have tried to suppress. The story reveals how perfectionism can become a destructive force. Jekyll's desire to be completely good leads him to create something completely evil. This perfectionist thinking prevents him from finding a healthy middle ground where he could acknowledge his flaws while still maintaining his values. The lesson suggests that accepting our imperfections is essential for psychological health and authentic relationships. The novella illustrates the power of shame in shaping behaviour. Jekyll's fear of social disgrace drives him to increasingly desperate measures to hide his connection to Hyde. This shame prevents him from seeking help or making amends, ultimately leading to his destruction. The story suggests that shame, while sometimes motivating positive behaviour, can also trap people in cycles of secrecy and self-destruction. Stevenson explores how isolation accelerates moral decay. As Jekyll becomes more secretive about his experiments, he loses connection with friends and colleagues who might have provided guidance or intervention. Hyde's actions become more extreme, partly because Jekyll has no one to whom he can confess or from whom he can seek help. This demonstrates the importance of community and accountability in maintaining ethical behaviour. The story examines the relationship between freedom and responsibility. Jekyll initially sees Hyde as a way to experience complete freedom from social constraints and moral obligations. However, he discovers that actions have consequences, regardless of which identity performs them. True freedom requires accepting responsibility for all aspects of ourselves, not compartmentalizing our choices into separate personas. The novella warns against the dangers of unchecked scientific ambition. Jekyll's experiments represent the Victorian era's growing confidence in science's ability to solve fundamental human problems. However, Stevenson suggests that some aspects of human nature resist scientific manipulation, and that attempts to improve humanity through technology often create new problems. This theme remains relevant in our age of genetic engineering and artificial intelligence. Jekyll and Hyde demonstrates how self-deception enables destructive behaviour. Jekyll convinces himself that he can control Hyde and that his transformations serve a noble purpose of advancing human knowledge. This self-deception allows him to continue his experiments long after their dangerous consequences become apparent. The story suggests that honest self-examination is essential for ethical decision-making. The story reveals how privilege can shield people from the consequences of their actions. Jekyll's wealth and social position allow him to hide Hyde's crimes and avoid immediate consequences. This protection enables him to continue his dangerous experiments longer than someone with fewer resources could manage. The theme suggests that privilege carries additional moral responsibilities that cannot be ignored without consequences. Finally, the novella illustrates the impossibility of permanently suppressing fundamental aspects of human nature. Jekyll's attempts to eliminate his capacity for evil ultimately fail because these impulses are integral to his identity. The story suggests that psychological health requires integration rather than elimination of our darker aspects. This lesson applies to individuals, societies, and cultures that try to deny or suppress natural human tendencies. Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde endures because it captures timeless truths about human nature that remain relevant across cultures and centuries. Stevenson's genius lay in creating a story that works simultaneously as thrilling entertainment and profound psychological exploration. The novella's influence extends far beyond literature, shaping how we understand personality disorders, moral psychology, and the relationship between civilization and human nature. The story's relevance has only increased in our modern era. We live in a time of unprecedented technological power to alter human nature, making Jekyll's scientific hubris more relevant than ever. Social media allows people to maintain multiple identities, echoing Jekyll's compartmentalization of his public and private selves. The story's warnings about the dangers of perfectionism and moral superiority speak directly to contemporary debates about cancel culture and public shaming.